Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Huddle, the Review.com's weekly sports show. I'm Rob Toder, executive editor of the Alliance Review, joined as always by Mike Brown, the guru of high school football in Stark County. Mike, it's hard to believe we're in week 7. League races are starting to tighten up a little bit. Let's start, though, with a couple of teams in the area who had nice comeback victories. Let's start with the Marlington Dukes, because after their 0-3 start, we kind of wrote them off a little bit. They've won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
They're tied for first in the NBC, and they got a nice comeback win over the Kansas South Wildcats.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been clutch the last few weeks. And I'll tell you, the guy who's pulled the trigger on that has been the young quarterback, Pinnell. I mean, they basically won that thing on a Hail Mary last week. But, they never are out of things with this group. And it's a group that's getting better. It's a young group that's getting better every week.
One thing you always talk about is confidence, and that you're never the same team from week to week. And I think Marlington against a Kansas South team that was winless didn't play exceptionally well, but they're playing with they're winning, and they're starting to get that confidence that you always talk about.
Yeah, at crunch time, teams that believe they're going to get it done find a way to get it done, and teams that believe, well, I don't know about this, usually lose.
Okay, the other team, Alliance. Things didn't look really well. Good for the Aviators for 3 quarters. They were trailing Carrollton 7-0, but they scored 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter. And they stay right in the thick of things. They still control their own destiny in the NBC.
And again, like Marlington, Alliance has a really young team and was able to hang in there with Carrollton. It was a home game. It was Hall of Fame night, a lot of special things. And then to win it the way they did is just fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of other games in the NBC. Louisville took care of matters against West Branch, as was expected. Maybe a little worse than we thought, 51-0.
Right.
Minerva with an impressive win, defeating Salem 37-0. And the Lions, for all the things that have gone wrong for them, we talked about that last week, they're 2-1 in the NBC.
And they are. And you know what? They're doing this with just over 30 kids, Rob. I mean, that's really a tough thing, but they're getting the job done as well.
And the Lions take on Louisville this week on the road, so that's a tough matchup for the Lions. But again, they control their own destiny, and they've got as good a shot as anybody. West Branch travels to Carrollton, a battle of the Warriors. How do you see that one turning out?
Well, you know what? You would think that might be a mismatch, but that's not how that series has played out the last few years. I think West Branch has won 2 of those last 3 meetings, including the last time they went to Carrollton. So that's one of those things where you can kind of throw the records out a little bit, and I look for that to be a good game Friday night.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Marlington is at Salem, and the Lions plays host to Kansas South, so good things should be brewing for the Aviators and the Dukes in those games. Let's go to the North Coast League. St. Thomas in the league now, and they open up with a victory last week, and they're at home this week to Holy Name.
And the nice thing about last week's win is Anthony Meglin returned to the lineup at quarterback, and that's huge as you look ahead for St. Tom and their goal is to make the playoffs again this year. I mean, he is so important to that football team, and it was so nice and refreshing to see him come back last week.
Okay. Portage Trail Conference Southeast got their first win, defeating old rival Waterloo. The Pirates go to Garfield this week. Waterloo is home to Norton, who's also a Portage Trail Conference school, but that's a cross-division game, doesn't count. Pirates got a needed win.
Yeah, they sure did, and we kind of saw that one coming. And there's a couple other chances I think they have to get a win this season because they're a really young team too, Rob. And the same with Waterloo. I mean, Waterloo's a fairly young team, new head coach, going through a transition year. And they've got a chance to get a couple more wins, too.
Okay. In our Tri-County League, the big game of the week, McDonald Western Reserve, came down to a couple missed conversions for Western Reserve Blue Devils as they fall 14-12. Their first loss of the year. McDonald really looking strong in the ITCL Tier 2. Yeah. They might not lose at all this year, and that's going to be tough for Western Reserve to get a share of that title. But Western Reserve still in good shape as far as the computer ratings, which really are important.
Yeah, they're in a region there, and there's 2 or 3 power teams, and the rest of the teams and they're one of those power teams. And I was at that game for a half before I had to be back in the office. And Western Reserve had trouble getting this running game going early, and then made a key mistake. They had a pick 6 for a touchdown. And McDonald made both of its conversions, and that turned out to be the difference in the game. I mean, those 2 are really evenly matched again. It's a shame that they're in different divisions because I'd love to see a rematch because it could go the other way in a rematch, but that's not going to happen. So I guess the best Western Reserve can hope for as far as the league is that McDonald stubs its toe somewhere along the line, but that's going to take a pretty good team to beat them.
Yeah. Sebring got back on the winning trail, 37-0 on the road at Southern Local. They're 4-2. And again, another winnable game at home this week against Mineral Ridge.
Right, and there's a word that we're mentioning with Sebring that we've never mentioned before: playoffs. they've got a shot.
Yeah.
You know, they're just on the outside looking in right now, the top 8. But I think if they can win a couple games here down the road, they're going to be right there for one of those 8 playoff spots when it's all said and done.
Yeah, the Trojans certainly showing that they're, outside of Western Reserve and McDonald, who are better than everybody in
right.
that division.
Yeah.
The Trojans are as good as there is in the ITCL this year. And you mentioned they're 10th in Division 7,
Right.
Region 23. So a couple more wins, and they're going to be right there.
Yeah.
United, an impressive win on the road. I think that surprised a lot of people. They went over and beat Springfield 14-7, and they're in 5th place in their region.
And I tell you what, that is a really nice story building down in Hamilton with Mike Warden, who's really a good guy and a good coach, and I'm so happy to see that for them. We thought they'd make the playoffs last year because they were a veteran team, but he had enough holdovers left from that team this year that looks like it may happen this year. And that, if they look back on this season, that win over Springfield local may be the one that boosted them in when it's all said and done again.
And you talk about a league race that's wide open, the ITCL Tier 1. There's 6 teams that are 2-1.
Yeah.
And any of those teams can win the league title this year. So that should be a great race down the last 4 weeks of the season. Well, it's week 7. We'll have previews of all these games throughout the week in the Alliance Review. We'll have live coverage in the review.com Friday night and all the coverage of the games on Saturday in the Alliance Review. So make sure you check us out. Hopefully we'll see you at a stadium. For Mike Brown, this is Rob Toder.